Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Mexico don't need no stinking Americans.
Bruh.
At least no entitled Americans. You know, no Americans that are going to be coming out here and acting like a Karen or acting like a fool or, misbehaving. You know, the same kind of Americans that, most of you guys are trying to get away from when you're leaving your country to come move out here to this beautiful and amazing country. So, now with all the tensions happening, between both countries and beyond. You can already imagine that, Mexicans, yeah, sure, it's still welcoming and very awesome and very amazing humans. And they're very welcoming to Americans, and they love American culture, and they love America, they love everything. But they don't love that entitled attitude. They don't like those Karens. They don't like people, trying to take over the beach, trying to take over the laws out here, just trying to change things up. So anyways, with that being said, today we're going to be talking about that. Look, I just wanted to show you this, I was riding around looking for a spot to start the video, and I found this thing. It's amazing. Not only is this amazing, there's a lot of amazing things that we're going to be seeing in today's video. Again, we are in the north of the city. For those of you guys, that don't know and want to know, we are in the north of Merida. In a previous walking and talking video, in a previous biking video, we drove all the way up here. In fact, we drove all the way down Paseo Montejo, all the way from El Centro, from the very beginning, all the way to basically the end of it, which is a periférico. We're right over there. So basically, yeah, you know what I mean? I switched it up. I went on ahead and I changed my shirt because it was already getting hot and sweaty out here. It's already 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's already 100 degrees. And I wanted to show you, again, this is one of the many amazing shirts that I have for sale. Again, here, let's get in the sunlight. Let's get a little hotter. One of the many amazing shirts that I have for sale on my website. A lot of you guys have been buying these Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of Mexico shirts, all kinds of things. Anyway, speaking of which, enough of an intro, long enough intro. We got to get on the bike. We have a lot of trekking to do. I wanted to show you guys, the amazing, neighborhoods that, this city has to offer. Because, many times I'm just driving around my own neighborhood, which is close to El Centro. But for many of you guys out there, well, you guys have never, been to the north or haven't really seen the north. Well, I haven't really been out here to the north much because it's a little a ways away from me. But now that I got the electric bike, well, guess what? We're here. So we're going to be driving around the neighborhoods again. In the last video, if you want to check that one out, I'm going to link it down below. I'm going to link it at the end of this one. But if you want to see, the Home Depots and the Dunkin' Donuts and the McDonald's and all that stuff, all the Americanized stuff, that's in the other video. And in today's video, we're going to be seeing more of the neighborhood. I'm going to actually go on ahead and just show you the neighborhoods around here. So that way you guys can see exactly what it looks like out here in a fancy neighborhood. Again, this is one of the new modern buildings, for the Tren Maya, Mayan train. There's one of the older buildings, older houses in the neighborhood. We're going to be seeing many more of these. Again, look at how nice and clean and beautiful it is, compared to, well, where I live and some of the other neighborhoods that I show you guys. So, all right, without further ado, let's get on that bike and let's, show you the neighborhood while we talk about, what Mexico doesn't want anymore, which is no bad attitude, all right? No bad hombres out there, all right? All right, let's get out of here, guys. Hasta luego. Muchas gracias. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, those guys were super duper nice. They went on ahead and they filled up my water bottle. They were curious as to what I was doing, and they saw me filming. They're like, "Oh, what are you doing? You making some TikTok videos?" I'm like, no, I'm making YouTube. I'm like, oh, cool. All right. And we got some followers. But yeah, super nice. Anyways, all right. So back to where, to the story. So again, no, not to the story, to the video. Let's start the video, my bad. So you guys can see, this is just like a normal neighborhood in a sense. It's just nice and taken care of, but it's still pretty normal. Some of these homes have been here for just as long as the homes, down in my neighborhood. See, like a little preschool over here, kindergarten, whatever, and all kinds of buildings. And again, right up ahead is the Galerias Mall. Again, in the previous episode, in the previous biking episode, I came down Paseo Montejo right through here and I showed you, how to get here. So anyways, all right, let's get back to it. So I'm going to go on ahead and I got to head back to my neighborhood. And I live, close to El Centro, close to the center of the city, close to the old historic part of the city, all right? And so I got my Google GPS here, and it says, you know, it's taking me, you know, it wants to take me, you know, through the, you know, the path of, whatchamacallit, like least resistance, you know, which is like the same way I came up here. But I want to show you guys the neighborhoods in this episode so you guys can see the homes and what things look like. So even if you're living in these fancy neighborhoods, you know, it doesn't mean, you know, you're not going to have, you know, things like, you know, the loncheria, you know, the nice little area here, you know, the park, you know, again, I'm on a bicycle, but you guys can see, oops, sorry, hit the accelerator and the brake at the same time. Anyways, you saw the park there, you know, you got events, it goes further back there. They got all the swing sets and all that stuff back over there. But anywho's. But again, you guys can tell that the neighborhood is definitely different. But anywho's. So, as you guys can see, not just from this episode, not just from this video that I'm showing you here on my channel, but other channels. Remember, last year we went to Guadalajara, for example. And in Guadalajara, you know, here, let's go through here first, just so you guys can see a little bit. Look at that. These are the nice fancy houses here. See, the nice hood. Nice neighborhoods out here, big homes, big fancy properties. Everything's just nice and manicured and taken care of. Okay, anywho's. It still looks similar to my neighborhood, but whatever. Okay, so as I was saying, you know, Mexicans, as you guys can see, have a lot of nice, you know, nice things already. You know, they got a nice lifestyle out here. You know, they can live exactly like how you're living. In fact, you know, many people can argue, live a much better lifestyle than you're living. All right, so again, I want to stay away from the streets in this episode. Let's see if we can make it all the way back south through the neighborhood streets, okay? So you guys can see all the houses. But yeah, so the people have it good up here, you know, and again, I've already talked to you guys a gazillion times over and over again, you know, as it pertains to, you know, the freedoms and how the lifestyle is and how people live out here. You know, when it comes to, you know, in the more poor, you know, regular working class, normal neighborhoods, and, you know, how people, they value, you know, certain things, you know, such as, you know, quality of life. You know, they value that a lot more than for you know, maybe material possessions or material lifestyle or whatever it is, you know. Obviously, you know, they got a lot of material girls, but not everyone is a material girl. Bruh. But yeah, anyways, so, you know, out here, you know, they basically have it all. And not only do they have all that stuff, but they have a lot of entitled Mexicans, you know, meaning that there's a lot of rich Mexicans, you know, a lot of Mexicans with money, all right, that, you know, they're assholes. I mean, I don't know what else to say. You know, they're not very nice people, you know. So, for example, that's why when a lot of you guys come out here, you know, with your retirement, it doesn't matter what your income is. Obviously, it helps if you have a higher income, but it doesn't really matter what your income is. At the end of the day, a lot of Mexicans prefer to do business with you in the audience out there. You know, Americans, Canadians, you know, Mexican Americans, you know, but just anybody coming from the you know, from the U.S. or Canada or whatever, is because, you know, you guys are gonna, you know, not gonna be lowballing all the time. You know, you guys are gonna be a lot nicer. You know, you guys are probably gonna tip. You're gonna be more appreciative. You're gonna be nicer. You know, all these things. You know, you're gonna be a lot better to deal with, you know, from their perspective, as opposed to, you know, a rich entitled Mexican, which, you know, they're gonna act like a rich entitled person. And so what they don't want, you know, what a lot of Mexicans don't want is that, you know, when now all of a sudden some of you guys are coming out here and acting like rich, entitled, you know, brats, and you're misbehaving, and, you know, you're trying to take over the beach, you know, whether or not you know about the laws or not, you know, you're trying to take over the beach, you're trying to convert this, you know, city, or not the city, this country into the country that you left. You know, I know not everybody that left the USA or Canada, you know, left because they hate the USA or Canada. Some of you guys just, you know, want to come out here because it's You know, it's like your retirement, your summer home. You know, you're here for vacation. You know, you're here for your reasons. But it's not always necessarily, oh, I'm leaving the US because it sucks, or I'm leaving Canada because it sucks. That's not everybody's case. But anyways, with that said, you know, there's a lot of people, and I think a lot, you know, now with all the tensions, you know, politically, you know, more and more, you know, they're being highlighted, you know, where like an American, you know, is going to start demanding a Mexican to do X, Y, Z, or start yelling at them, or start acting, you know, the same or worse than a rich Mexican. So, you know, the Mexicans are like, you know what, we already got enough people like that here. We know how bad you guys are already. You know, we see the videos of Karens, and we see the videos of, you know, all these misbehaved, you know, horrible people. You know, we don't want them out here. You know, we don't need them out here. In fact, more and more these days, I'm seeing in my videos, I'm getting a lot of, you know, people telling me, hey, I should be, you know, making videos talking about, you know, this exact subject of keeping people away that are gonna, you know, try to come to Mexico and try to convert Mexico into something else. All right, by the way, let's just come through here real quick since we're here. This is the Galerías, no, sorry, not the Galerías, nah, not the Galerías. We started at Galerías. This is Gran Plaza. So this is a mall. So we're just gonna come through here real quick. In the last episode, we took another tour around this area. And yeah, anyways, I remember when I first moved here, and you know, one of the persons that I was you know, hanging out with back then, you know, they brought me here, you know, like after just being here a few weeks, and I was such shock because I was so, you know, when I first moved here, and I was living in El Centro, and I was living in, by the way, there's a Tesla dealership right to my right, but we're gonna go to the left, show you the mall. I'm not gonna go in the mall. You wanna go in the mall, just, you know, there's other people that do those videos. It's just like any mall. Imagine what your mall looked like, but packed full of people shopping, all right, and doing things, all right? That's what this mall and every other mall looks like. See, we got Sears out here, and they're alive and well. You want Craftsman tools, they got them here. So anyways, how do we get out of here? Because I want to get out to the back here. Just wanted to just show you the mall. But yeah, so they got everything here, you know? In fact, you don't have Sears, they got Sears, you know? You don't have, you know, affordable movie theaters, they got affordable movie theaters. You know, it's only cost like a couple bucks, like $5 to get a movie ticket. You know, I can, you know, bring Christian to the movies to watch whatever movie, and I'll buy, you know, all, you know, the popcorn and the candy and the nachos and the hot dog, and I'll buy everything, you know, things that I would never buy. Because I never bought any of that crap, you know, because I could never afford it. Oh yeah, look, there's a grocery store. A lot of malls here have grocery stores in them, which I find very convenient. Anyways, all right, back to what I was saying. But yeah, so as I was saying, yeah, sorry, I'm just biking right now. I'm not it's just that like it's a, hola, buenos días. Oh, no, let's go this way. Yeah, I don't want to go, yeah, because I was going to go up the ramp to go up to the roof to the parking. Yeah, see? Or whatever that is over there. All right, so, okay. What was I saying? So yeah, you know, all the conveniences, all the everything they have out here, you know what I mean? Like, you know, if you look at everywhere around you and you look at some of the people, you know, and especially depending on the city you're in, you know, you're gonna be like, where am I? Am I in the USA? You know? Am I in Canada? You know, honestly, you know, it's like how much more different, you know, could it be? And in many senses, you know, it's just that it's more like a thriving, you know, situation over here instead, see? Again, look at this. So, again, these are the neighborhoods, these are the homes out here. And, you know, so back to what I was saying, you know, so like, you know, a lot of Mexicans these days are like, you know what, we don't need any of your, you know, bull crap, you know? We don't want you, you know, coming out here and, you know, acting a fool, you know, disrespecting us, you know, being mean to us, you know, all these things. Oh, what's this? What's this? That's a good thing we're on a bicycle. All right, we gotta get on this. All right, this is like a main road. All right, so we gotta, all right, hold on a second. A lot of traffic over here. So yeah, by the way, I'm just getting lost right now. I have no direction per se as to where I'm going. I'm just trying not to get run over here. All right. But yeah, I want to go through the neighborhood. I'm gonna turn up ahead there. All right. Okay, but anyway, so yeah, I mean, all the modern comforts, all the modern luxuries, modern everything, even the modern problems, believe it or not. Oh, look at this. Wow, this is nice. Wow, look at this house. That's a nice. See, I like the flowers. Ooh, so nice. Wow. All right, let's go. A fancy hood here. So yeah, that's the thing. It's like, a lot of these, that's one thing I was surprised about, when I moved out here. Man, it's hot. One thing is, I was surprised about is that, yeah, Mexico has money. Mexico's rich. When I was, when me and Christian got married, for example. Oh, my phone overheated. All right, hold on a second. I gotta figure out where I'm at because I'm a little lost here. Yeah, because I really don't know where I'm at. Wow, look at these homes. Look at these properties out here. So, yeah, as I was saying, I was shocked. I was really, really shocked. To see, the homes, to see the money. When we got married, and one of Christian's cousins, some family member that has money, and we got married in a nice, fancy house, in an hacienda type of place. I got my wedding video on my channel, just somewhere all the way at the beginning or whatever. But anywho's. But yeah, and when I was talking to them, basically the guy was a PE teacher, and they had traveled to the U.S. They loved. Oh my God, you come from the U.S. Oh, do you like American football? And I'm like, yeah. And like, oh my God, who are you? Where are you? He's like, what's your team? And I'm like, well, I'm from Miami. Oh, you're a Dolphins fan? Oh, that's great. Oh, Big Dan Marino. Oh, what? And long story short, we were talking football, we were talking baseball, we were talking rock and roll, we were talking all kinds of things. And it was very refreshing, to say the least, to be able to talk, to them. Again, we were talking in Spanish, Mexican, they were living in a village, in a sense. But it's like, are you kidding me? They had a monster house, they had businesses, that they had, built. Wow, these homes are humongous out here. I've never been through here. Anyways, yeah, I don't know how much you can see there through the camera because some of these walls are so big, you can't really see much. Wow. Oh, look, this was for sale. Look at this monster beast of a house. Holy guacamole. Gonna ask Jose to see if we can see this one. Look at this. Wow. You can't really see much there. It's like the side of the house. Oh my God, anyways. Oh yeah, guys, there's money out here. And you guys are like, oh, some of those properties are expensive, or some of the lifestyle out there is expensive, or is it, or is it that you just can't, you can't afford life in your own country and you can't afford life in another country. And especially if you want to live like big baller, you can definitely afford to live out here. I've done, oh, wow. Damn, hey, Jose, can we do this house? This is crazy. Oh, oops, I hit the fence there. Anyways, that's cool. That's awesome, right? All right, let's get out of here before I get in trouble. And so anyways, yeah, it's kind of cool, to see, all the, wow, all the money up here and all the homes out here and all the whatever. I mean, this just feels like a normal rich neighborhood, like in the U.S., like in, Miami or Los Angeles or whatever. All right, how do I guess let's go this way. Yeah, my phone overheated, so I don't even know, what direction. Wow, this is so nice. Very nice. But yeah, anyways, as I was saying, yeah, I gotta get under the shade real quick so I can figure out, how to get out of here. I gotta get on the GPS. And the GPS. All right, give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna pull over for a second so I can orient myself, and then we're gonna continue with the show, okay? 1 second, guys. Thank you for your patience. Okay, I think we got it. So, all right, we're gonna head this way. One thing I have noticed is that there's a lot more security up here. Oh, I forgot, I gotta turn the bike on. But as you guys can see there from the popo, You know, there's a lot more police presence up here. You know, so that's a good thing, you know, I guess. But it goes to show you too, you know, priorities, you know, just like back home, just like anywhere else. You know, yeah, I got, you know, it's safe in my neighborhood. And I got here, I'm gonna let the traffic go through. Oh, look, we got a nice little bake shop, a little gentrified coffee shop, and then we got the little tiendita, you know, just like you normally always have, and all that stuff. So, all right, we're gonna make a turn over here, I think, this way, right? Ah, look at these homes. Yeah, the homes are just amazing. All right, so we're gonna go this way. Yeah, so I'm just gonna have to keep stopping periodically here, trying to figure out how to get home, okay? See, some people drive more aggressively, other people drive extra safe out here. Goes to show you all the money out here. You know, a lot of housewives, you know, driving their cars, you know, so you already know. There's a lot of housewives up here, that's for sure. That's how you know it's a good neighborhood. Anyways, all right, so I think, like I said, my phone is not working, all right, because it's so hot. It just overheated to the point where it's just, because I was using it and it was in the direct sun. So what we're gonna do is that I just, like I said, we're gonna figure it out as we go along. But anyway, so yeah, look guys, Mexico, okay? This is not the only city like this. Many cities are like this, okay? There's the rich and the poor sections, you know? There's a lot of income disparity, okay? It is what it is. It's just the truth, all right? But at least out here is, you know, even the poor people, you know, the poor and the very poor are lifting up, and they're getting, you know, better opportunities and more money and more everything. And everyone is moving on up. Yes, the income disparity is also growing. But it's very different out here, man. It's just so different out here than it is in the USA and Canada these days. And so, but anyways, you know, everything that you're seeing around you, you know, none of this is new. You know, a lot of this has been built, you know, decades and decades in the making. And so, you know, with that said, you know, since none of this is new per se, the money isn't new, a lot of things aren't new, then you want to ask yourself, well, then, you know, what's going on? You know, why do a lot of, you know, Mexicans, you know, they go to the U.S. or used to go to the U.S., you know, or Canada to get work and make money? Well, a lot of them, you know, they would do so. All right, what am I going to do here? How am I going to cross? Let me see. Okay, I see up ahead. All right. So, you know, that's like a common question, a common situation. You know, like, hey, how come, you know, where do a lot of these people get their money? Not everybody, but where do a lot of them get their money? And it's like, well, a lot of them, you know, they get it from the USA because they work in the USA. They, and then slowly, you know, but surely, you know, all the sacrifice and hard work that they put out there, you know, comes out here, you know, because they bring it out here so then they can build and live their amazing lifestyle, you know, because since they know what they have out here, you know, they know what an amazing life they have out here. All right, awesome. You know, for a lot of people, you know, they go out there, you know, they're in Mexico, they're very poor. They go to the U.S., they work for many years, they bring a lot of money out here, and then before you know it, they're able to build one of these mega homes. Maybe even invest, you know, have a business out here. Imagine if they're actually really successful in the USA, you know, what they could do out here. So yeah, no, there's a lot of, you know, things going on, you know, that a lot of people are just not aware of. And so, you know, everybody thinks everyone's poor and that they just, you know, live in the rancho and live a very, you know, certain lifestyle, but that's not the case. You know, when we went to Guadalajara, you know, I got to really show you that city has a lot of money. You know, this city is now changing. You know, the city of Merida, where I'm at, where I'm showing you everything here, you know, this is changing a lot. And, you know, this used to be one of the most poor, look, like over 100 years ago, this was one of the richest areas in the world. Then, you know, recently, in the last like decades, this is one of the poorest regions in the world. And now it's becoming one of the more rich and gentrified regions of the world again. So, see, again, look at this park. Brand new park, brand new everything all the time. Hold on. There's a lot of nice things everywhere. We're just out here getting lost, guys. Very nice, very nice. In fact, this looks exactly like a neighborhood in freaking Guadalajara, only hotter, you know, a lot hotter, you know, other than that. But actually not that hot. There's a lot of trees out today. I mean, there's a lot of trees, a lot of shade out today, a lot of clouds today. we're about to hit the rainy season. But yeah, guys, out here, people are sick and tired, okay, of you trying to come out here and treating them a certain way, acting a certain way, trying to take ownership, all this stuff. Because you know what? If a lot of these rich Mexicans can't do it and won't do it because there's a lot of repercussions to be paid, what makes you think that you can do it? So, you're, hold on, yes. You're definitely not, any more special. In fact, you're less special. You don't even speak the language, and yeah, it's just a different thing, different animal altogether. So that's the thing, it's like for a lot of you guys, this is not a big deal. For a lot of you guys already get it. You come out here, you love, you respect. All right. You assimilate. You're immigrants. A lot of you guys, you're immigrants. You're sure, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, you're expats or whatever. But I mean, think about how silly that looks. When you're talking to one of these rich Mexicans, to any Mexican really. When you're out here and you're calling, look, it's okay to call yourself an expat with another expat. Hey, I'm an expat. Hey, whatever, with other gringos, other Americans. Yeah, that's the only time I ever use that word, when I'm talking to you person, face to face, like a friend of mine, an American, whatever. But the reality is that we're immigrants. I mean, most of the time, like I said, I just use that as a pleasantry, but eventually I break the ice and be like, start using the word immigrant, foreigner. That's what we are. We're immigrants, we're foreigners. And when you look at the money, when you look at the lifestyle, when you look at everything, okay, so now we're starting to get into the city. So you can start seeing how things start to change, start going back to, more of the neighborhoods and the lifestyle, where I live and things like that. Still nice, very nice. You got the nice park, the nice areas, but it's just like they're one next to each other. But what was I saying? Hold on a second. Just trying to orient myself here in the Jippus, since we got it working again. Okay, we're gonna cross over here. So here, check this out. Here, I just wanted to show you the dichotomy of, Mexico and what Mexico is. Look at all these fancy everything, See, look, fancy everything, okay? Everything's fancy. It's the same exact thing I got in my neighborhood, but just fancier. I don't know what else to say. And, I don't want to point behind me, but, all the, there's a bunch of cars behind me just parked, which you probably saw as I was pulling up there. You can rewind the video a little bit if you want. But anyways, those are all the husbands, or whatever, or just the, the cars of the people. All right, I'm gonna let these wives get through first. But anyways, long story short, it's the same kind of store, same kind of neighborhood, but it just looks nicer and presented nicer. Why? Because we're in the fancy neighborhood. And a lot of Mexicans, it does not matter how much money you got. Yeah, look, I wish I could show you every little thing. It's just, that's one of the things I like about the walking, is I can show you more. But hey, I got a lot to show you here, so that's why we're on the bike. But yeah, there's all these little stores. Look, we got the fancy homes. We got the, there's just like a normal, regular, typical restaurant. Right behind me. All, right behind me. I don't know. That just makes it weird. But anyways, we got the, the bakery. We got the, we got all the normal, regular things that I got in my neighborhood. Like I said, the bakery, the corner store, the little restaurant, the taco place, the little fruteria. The verdureria. Where they sell the. The fruits, the vegetables, all that stuff. And so, a lot of people, right here, the 6th, the Tecate, you can get your beer, even in a nice house, the ladies, selling, same as like in any other neighborhood. You got another restaurant over here, So even though it's a nicer, fancier restaurant, neighborhood, you're going to be paying a lot more money, for your rent out here. You're going to be paying a lot more money for your property out here. You can still get a lot of that same stuff out here. And yeah, I don't know what the prices are on some of the items in some of these places, but they might be a little bit more just to cater to the neighborhood. But look, long story short is that the humbleness is a school over here, all the people selling all their stuff, and the kids, All right, let's go. So yeah, long story short, Like it's like, the humbleness of of the lifestyle and everything, meaning, and look, man, there's a lot of Mexicans that live in these neighborhoods or even fancier neighborhoods like the ones I showed you at the beginning of the show, and they wouldn't be caught dead in any one of these places, and they only shop at the mall, and they only shop at the grocery store. They might have a nanny. They might not even want to step foot in the grocery store. There's a lot of, really fancy rich people out here that are, that would surprise you. It would surprise you, as to how they act. And how they act with the help and how they act in general and just all that stuff. So yeah, it's fairly interesting, to see it. And, but like a lot of people, it does not matter how much money they got. That's what I love about Mexico. There's so many Mexicans out there that it really does not matter how much money they got. They want to eat their tacos at the taco place. They want to get their fruits and vegetables from Merida down the corner, because not only is she going to go get the things for the, for tonight's dinner, but she's also going to talk to her friend, that's at the, that's over there at the corner store, and I can go on and on, Geek Store Merida, cool, all right, awesome. but yeah, it's just like all these little things like that. So, out here, once upon a time, when there was less and less Americans, living out here, Canadians living out here, and there's only a few of us out here, and we're just peppered and peppered throughout everywhere, and we would basically most of us assimilate, live amongst the people, trying not to bother anybody, we don't want to stick out like a sore thumb, all this other stuff, most Mexicans, it wasn't no problem, there wasn't like any kind of animosity or hate or anything, of course there's always racist, there's all kinds of people in all kinds of places, all right? Listen to that, But long story short, I mean? Like, it was very, very rare. Most Mexicans are super nice, super welcoming, all that stuff. And, that's just the reality of it. So, because of that, most people, moved out here, lived out here, and everything was great and wonderful because they never really had a problem, with the people out here because, well, the people out here are cool as hell. But what happened is like as more and more of us have come out here, more and more Americans. Oh, you know what? My battery is about to overheat. But let me just finish my thought real quick. But as more and more Americans, more and more of us have come out here. Man, do I know my camera or what? Okay, I literally just parked it right there. But anyways, I just wanted to finish my thought, before I got to cool the camera down and change the battery. Yeah, long story short, again, as more and more of us have come out here and have made our presence out here, well, a lot of us, we aren't sending our best. We haven't been sending our best. There's been a lot of people with a lot of bad attitudes, and acting a certain way. And long story short, well, a lot of people have just been grown tired of it. Hola, buenos días. Buenos días. But at the end of the day, most people are super nice, super amazing, super welcoming, and that's not going to change unless you start changing and you start coming out here and acting a fool and acting, out of place and, start demanding things and yelling at people and just acting like a Karen and acting like someone that, nobody likes. Doesn't matter where you are. So anyways, that's all I wanted to say. All right, I'm going to let this thing cool down before it turns off again. I think it's about to turn off. All right, anyways, then I'm going to sit under the shade there for a minute, like a real good Mexican and chill out and, figure out how to get home from here. All right, time to rock and roll. Let's get going. So, as I've mentioned before and, other videos, talked about it many times. In fact, I feel like almost, it's almost like nomenclature these days, I guess. I don't know if I'm using that word right or not, but the whole idea of like the Mexican dream, right? The American dream. The American dream is now in Mexico. The American dream is the Mexican dream. Because the thing is, it's like, for so many people out there, let's say you're retirement age. Well, you thought that you could have retired in the USA. A lot of you guys wanted to retire in Florida or retire somewhere in the USA, whatever. Just have your retirement years out there. Only to quickly find out that you're not going to be able to afford to have a nice, dignified retirement out there with your Social Security or whatever. With your pension and all these things. And so, you've been looking into moving out here, living out here for a long time. This ain't new. But now, what's been going on for, many years now, since, I want to say like 4 or 5 years, since COVID or whatever, a lot of people, a lot of individuals out there they have opted, for coming out here to Mexico, to have their family, to start their family out here. Buenos días. To start their family out here, to have their, to raise their family out here. I know a lot of people my age, they got like, 1, 2, 6 kids, whatever. And, oh, we got to cross this major road here. But anyways, and, a lot of you guys have found it, a lot more, reasonable, to come out here, to move out here, live out here, raise your family out here, instead of in the USA, or Canada, whether because of, political reasons, whether because of, just, financial reasons or, whatever reasons, family reasons, there's a lot of people that have moved out here, because, well, they have family ties out here and, they just, rather just live out here and raise their family out here and all that stuff. Oh, look at that. We even got the Eiffel Tower out here. Yeah, look at that. I've never seen that before. Interesting. All right. But anyways, so, there's many reasons, why a lot of people are coming out here. But, again, the freedom, as I mentioned, multiple times, the freedom that you get from living out here. And that freedom is, brought to you by, simply because maybe your money stretches out further. You can have a more dignified lifestyle out here. You can get more bang for your buck out here. And again, it doesn't matter what you earn in, it doesn't really matter what kind of denomination of money you make. I know a lot of people are always saying, oh, but yeah, you bring dollars. I mean, dollars these days don't bring much. I mean, what is the typical salary out there, in the USA these days? I know people out here that are making, $2,000, $3,000 a month, just working on normal jobs. One of these. I know not everybody's in that income, but even if all you're making is $1,000, or you're making, even $500 or $600 a month, you can live out here. As a Mexican, I know very extremely difficult for many. But again, even these days, we talked about it multiple times on the channel, for many, many, many people. All right, well, how are we gonna cross? I know we're not gonna cross up there. Let's go this way. All right, I kind of know where I am now. So, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so, long story short, for a lot of people, you can live on many incomes out here and live comfortably. Again, it just depends on what you think comfortable is. But I think, not living on the street is comfortable. All right. But again, depends on who you are out there. But yeah, look, Mexicans out here, not only do they have potential to make a lot of money, and they do make a lot of money. Besides that, on top of that, the fact that, for many Mexicans, they can, spend all that money, living a lavish, fancy Americanized lifestyle, or not. All right, so we got to turn up ahead. So I guess I'm going to get in the middle here. And that's just that's the thing. For some people, they don't want that. Some people want to keep living, a more, comfortable and Americanized lifestyle than what they're used to. And, for a lot of Mexicans out here, they live how they got to live, and it really doesn't matter. Again, if they can afford to live nice and fancy and have a wonderful, amazing home, I guess they got to keep turning there, but they're not turning. See, look up there. Bad. They're waiting for the green, but yeah, they're supposed to turn. Anyways, but yeah, like it's up to you. Basically you want to live your life. But yeah, for a lot of Mexicans, they're not, they don't want to put, they don't have to put up with with you anymore. Because again, there's a lot of people that come out here, that have come out here throughout the years, whether for tourism, for, other reasons, other means. And, yeah, sorry guys, I'm trying not to get run over here. I'm in the middle of the street. All right, let's, here, wish me luck here. So, yeah, this is like the old immigration site. I don't know if they still have the immigration stuff here or not. Nope. Police car broke down. Anywho's. But yeah, it's just like a different world out here. It's just like a different lifestyle. You know, how people live out here. You know, they got all the fancy schmancy lifestyles, you know, things that you want, you know, whether it's the traffic, you know, as you guys can see the traffic, or whether it's the fancy cars or the fancy homes or the fancy lifestyles or the fancy jobs and the fancy everything. You know, remember, Mexico is on the up and up. Mexico's growing. And, you know, the same cannot be said for the USA and Canada. And the way, it's not just about growing, but it's about how it's growing. You know, how things are changing out here. You know, how things are becoming better. You know, what are the exact changes? All right, I'm gonna see if I can get on another road here. All right, hold on a second. Can I? Here, let's go through here. Trying to get out of the main road if possible. So yeah, you know, the thing is, it's like, again, this is not a unique city in what I'm showing you. When we were in Guadalajara, we stayed in a nice, fancy area. You guys saw in those videos, I'll link those videos in the back, I mean, at the end of this one, if you're interested. You know, I got a playlist. Is this the dead end? What's going on here? Oh, no. Very nice. Yeah, I don't know where I'm at. I'm super lost now. Oy vey. What did I do? I should have just kept up with traffic. Or, oh, I know where I am. Oh yeah, I know exactly where I am. Oh yeah, this is Jose's office. Jose Novello's office is right here. Yeah, here we are. Ah, that's funny. All right, so to my left, that's his office. All right. So I kind of know how to get home from here. All right, so let's get home. All right, shout out to Jose. All right, getting close to the house. So, all right, yeah. So, you know, at the end of the day, guys, you know, Mexico is still very, very welcoming to you. You know, American, Canadian, doesn't matter who you are, but you know, Americans, you know, more than anything else, you know, still very welcoming to everybody. But they're not, you know, they got a really, really, really short fuse these days, you know, when it comes to entitled foreigners, entitled, immigrants, entitled to anybody. Again, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a Venezuelan immigrant coming out here, you know, asking, you know, for money, you know, asking for a handout, they're going to be pissed at you. If you are a Spanish, you know, European, you know, coming out here and acting, you know, like you own the place, they're not going to be happy with that. If you come out here like an entitled American, again, you know, and pretending like this is like Disney World, and that everybody has to treat you like a certain way, and then everybody here works for you, and yeah, no, that's not going to go well either. So, look, long story short, you know, this is not only is this another country, another culture. You got to respect, you know, the people. You got to respect everything, you know, as it pertains to all that. But on top of that, you know, these days, you know, more than anything else, you know, things have changed very dramatically to the point where, you know, again, it's just nice. You know, again, you've seen in my other videos where I've shown you that they have every single thing that you have back home. We got the malls. You know, we got the Home Depots, we got the Walmarts, we got the Costco's, you know, we got everything. We got everything. You know, we got the Wendy's and McDonald's, the Subway, you know, Starbucks, the Dairy Queen, you know, the Ford dealership, the Lincoln dealership, you know, whatever, anything and everything, you know, we have out here. So you got to just remember that. So that you know, the typical Mexican out here, you know, lives a pretty good life. They live a pretty good life. You know, it doesn't really matter because, you know, I'm just comparing it to the USA. I know a lot of Mexicans that have never been to the USA. You know, sometimes they'll comment and they'll let me know, oh, what are you talking about? Why are you saying that? Listen, man, you have no idea how good you guys have it. You know, some Mexicans already realize, you know, they've been to the USA, they got family in the USA, or they know how good they have it. And they'll watch videos like this. You know, so shout out to some of you guys out there, you know, watching videos like this that are Mexican, and you guys know exactly what's up. And I'm just trying to highlight, how amazing life is out here, how wonderful things are out here, and how lucky, many Mexicans are. Oh, that's traffic. Oh, wow, that's a lot of traffic here. Oh, man, I didn't want to come through here, but whatever. Oy vey. It is what it is. I'm going to have to cross through here. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's a very similar lifestyle. As you guys saw from this drive, from this, which we call bike ride, and the last bike ride we were on, that I got to show you, how life is out here outside of my own neighborhood, outside of just a regular, normal neighborhood. Because the reality is that, most Mexicans out here, they get to live, they live a more Americanized lifestyle than you think. A lot of Mexicans have everything, that you have. They have more, in fact, a lot of them might have even more access to so many of the things that you have. And that's just the reality of it. And that's just also like a hard pill to swallow for many people, because a lot of people, they'll come out here and, yeah, I totally understand. You're under that impression, because you watch my videos and other people's videos, oh yeah, we have everything out here. You got it all, everything out here in Mexico. But yeah, it also comes with a price tag. The thing is that again, why don't I go to Home Depot? Why don't I go to all these places, Why am I never at the mall? Why do I never make videos about the mall or talk about these places or whatever it is? Well, it's simply because those things cost money. They're just more expensive to live that kind of lifestyle. So I don't live that lifestyle. I stay in my neighborhood. I shop locally, with my, retailers, that are in my neighborhood, and that's it. And so I show you, I go around my neighborhood, now with the electric bike, I show you more and more, and we're now entering my neighborhood, but I used to remember when this street, was all torn up and terrible, and it was all bumpy, and it was just like the worst street ever. And now look how nice it is. And then everything getting gentrified slowly but surely. But that's the thing though, Most Mexicans, they live a really, really good life. They have access to everything. And it just depends on their budget, whether or not, they're going to be riding around on a scooter or in a brand new car. Whether or not they're going to be riding around on the bus or, in a brand new SUV, as to what kind of house they're going to be living in and what kind of neighborhood they're going to be living in. So, for example, I live in a more run-down neighborhood compared to the fancy neighborhoods. Again, you're looking at the neighborhood I kind of live in, and but I live in a brand new, in a newer construction. I live in a newer home in a newer construction these days, as opposed to the older home. Again, I never left the neighborhood. Before, I used to live in an older home, older construction, because all I can really afford was $300 rent. But with $300 rent, I was able to get, myself, I was able to get myself here, I'm gonna go on this way because I've never really been through here. I want to show you real quick. I was able to get myself a nice home, 2-bedroom home, nothing fancy, nothing crazy, but wow, a home with a yard, with a place for a studio, place for me to work, for Christian to work, everything, right? And on the flip side, I have been through here, but just I've never been through this little slit of road here that connects these two roads, all these roads. Oh, interesting, cool. All right, awesome. Now I know. Slowly but surely, we're figuring it all out here. So, as I was saying, now I've been, making a little bit more money. Everything's going better for both of us financially and many other factors. All right, fine. Now we live in a nicer home. Now, I don't want to go on ahead and move to the north, because now, as you guys saw, from our last couple episodes, this one and the last one, it's a little bit more difficult to navigate in the north on a bicycle. I would now have to get a car. I really would have to get a car, in order to really, be able to function up there, more comfortably. And, I choose not to do that because I want to be in a neighborhood where I can walk to many places. I can bike to many places. I can go to El Centro. I'm close to, because in the center Yeah, you want to be close to the center because that's where everything is. You know, that's where all the buses are. That's where everything is, right? And so long story short, you know, at least for me, you know, we've been Christian, you know, we want to be in a neighborhood just like this, but we just don't want to be in an old rundown home like many of the ones that you see. You know, it's more like a brand new home like this. Sorry, I got traffic behind me. But it's just like, again, you guys can see, you know, brand new home, you know, brand new construction, okay, in a nice neighborhood. You know, in just a regular, normal, working class neighborhood. And there's many, there's many levels to, you know, what kind of home we want. But look, long story short, that same home, look, and I know because, you know, when we rented the place, you know, they have multiple homes around the city, right? This family that has these homes, right? So anyways, long story short, you know, they say that they have the same exact home, you know, in the north, and it rents for more than double the price. You know, again, we pay 12,000 pesos, give or take. You know, 12,000 pesos, which is around $600, give or take. And that same home up north is 24,000 pesos. And that's, you know, again, 1,200, 1,300 a month, depending on the exchange rate. So that's the thing, you know what I mean? It's so like, it just depends on the lifestyle, depends on how you want to live, depends on many things. Again, this is my neighborhood. You know, you guys can see the difference in the neighborhood as to the one that we started off in. You know, we started off in a very, very nice and fancy neighborhood, and now we made it to my neighborhood. You know, we're back over here. We're here by the hospital. You know, we're by the E-tram. You know, we're close to Parque La Plancha. You know, we're close to many things out here that are close to the center of the city. And so, you know, for me, for a Christian, there's a lot more convenient. But look, anyways, long story short, it's like it doesn't matter what your income is. You can live anywhere you want. You know, you can live in a village, you can live in a pueblo. All right, we're gonna go down this way. You can live in a village, you can live in a pueblo, you can live in you can live in a city, you can live in the fancy part of the city, you can live in the regular part of the city, you can live in the hood. You know, by the way, we're gonna be doing videos in the hood. I'm gonna be taking you guys to certain neighborhoods out there, all right? And then, and so on and so forth. So, but the one thing that's going to remain constant is that, remember, you're the foreigner out here. You're the stranger out here, okay? You are the immigrant now. You know, you're the one that needs to behave and act a certain way, and whether it's learn the language or learn the customs. And some of the customs is be nice, you know, be a normal human. You know, stop being such a jerk. You know, there's many. Here, we're going to go down this way. There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of traffic down that way, so we're gonna go on this way here. Hold on a second, let me fix my GPS there. But anyway, so yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that's just the reality of it, you know what I mean? So like Parque La Plancha is all the way up ahead over there. All right? And yeah, what was I saying? So yeah, this is my neighborhood. You know, I live out here in this neighborhood. I live close to prime real estate. You know, depends on who you're asking, depends on who you're talking to. You know, some people want to live up north where I started the show. Some people want to live out here, and so on and so forth. But anyways, back to, you know, what I was saying is that, yeah, you know, Mexico is still awesome. It's still great. And, but, you know, they just have a lot less patience these days, you know, for any kind of attitude, any kind of entitlement. I mean, you know, they've, you know, they don't, what is it? They have a short fuse, you know, even with their own Mexican people acting that way as well. Why? Well, because many Mexicans these days, again, you know, they're, you know, less and less poor. You know, they're becoming more rich. You know, they're becoming more, you know, middle class. Hold on a second. Hello. Hola. Hello. I'm doing great. I'm doing a video. How's it going? Oh, awesome. Awesome. Nice to meet you. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Look, you're going to be in a video now. You're going to be in one of the future videos. Awesome. 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 Here. Here, let me shake your hand at least. Here. Awesome. Awesome. Nice to meet you. Claro, claro. Okay, bien. Yo también hablo español. All right, hold on a sec. Let me turn off the... All right, so I met some fans, you know, on my way, you know, back home. So look at that. Again, they stopped me to say hi. Shout out, say hi. Hey. They wanted to say hi in the video. You want to say some names? What?
Be safe.
Tu nombre.
Edward.
Eduardo. Araceli.
Y Gustavo. Look at that. So, okay, oye, mucho gusto. Nice to see you guys.
We are expats living in Merida.
And how do you like it out here? How do you love it out here?
love it.
You love it out here, huh?
Yeah.
I like to live.
I love this city.
Beautiful.
Yucateca, tú sabes.
Ya tú sabes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Bueno, mucho gusto. Hasta luego. Nice to meet you guys. Bye bye. Igual. Bye. All right. So that was pretty cool. That was nice. So yeah, as I was, well, you guys saw it, and I have to tell you guys, you know what I mean? As I was heading out, heading home, I bumped into some fans. Well, actually, they saw me, they heard me coming from a mile away. And yeah, I hung out with them for a quick second, took some pictures. An old Cuban guy, retired, and he, invited me to some coffee, but I had to head out of here. I forgot what I was talking about. But yes, again, he is an American. And he married a Mexican in the USA. And long story short, she was originally from here. And when they were going to retire, instead of retiring in Florida, which they had a whole life there, they said, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to come out here to Mexico and retire out here in Mexico. And they're living the dream. They're very, very happy. They were telling me how happy they were and all this other stuff. And I was going to spend a little bit more time with them, but Christian is actually waiting for me at home right now. Believe it or not, the wife is waiting for me at home. So you know what I gotta do? I gotta head home, or else, anyways. So, all right, where was it going? All right, so let's head out of here. So, yeah, where am I? Okay, I kind of know where I am. But anyways, all right, let's just kind of wrap this video up. Let's wrap this episode up here, and yeah, wanted to let you guys know that again, I wanted to give a big shout out to all of you guys out there, all of my all my patrons, again, all my members, every single one of you guys out there that has helped support the show. You guys know exactly who you are, and I really, really appreciate you guys. Again, shout out to my fans out there that bumped into me. Again, everyone out there, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you. You have no idea how much I appreciate you guys. And I'm glad that you guys are enjoying these videos, enjoying these shows, enjoying these rides, through the city. Through my neighborhood, through other neighborhoods, and every neighborhood in between, and then so on and so forth. So, all right. So with all that said, guys, I really, really hope you guys enjoyed today's show. And if you did, you already know what to do. Don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit the bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.